So this is technically my first online class for public sector accounting. So for my physical classes, we have done 2 topics, which is about chapter 1, which is public sector accounting framework and concept, but we call it introduction to public sector accounting. And we have also looked at chapter 2, which is the constitutional and regulatory framework. I think that was our last topic anyways. But this chapter 2, we didn't cover all. We did look at Fiscal Responsibility Act, Public Procurement Act. So those are part of what we didn't look at in chapter 2 when we are doing the physical class. So what I want to do today is to brush up what we have done here using ICANN Pack, shed more light on it, okay? Then, for the sake of those who are specifically physical classes, online classes, they don't do physical classes. So I'll shed more light on it so you guys can get an understanding of it. I hope you can understand me. I hope you can hear me. Flora, can you hear me? So let's move to chapter 1. Let's move to chapter 1. Okay, let's move to chapter 1. So what we want to look at today in today's class is basically very simple. This is public sector accounting. So in your ATS1, you have done basic accounting principles and concepts. So what we want to do here is simply how you can work with, how you can actually work with public sector organizations, how you can work with the government, okay? So the knowledge of this particular course is going to prepare you to know how you can work with the government, how you can work with any organization at all that is owned and managed by the government. So in today's class, we'll be looking at the nature, the objective, and characteristics of public sector accounting. So I know that many of us must have done it because I've taught you this, so you're going to assist me as we proceed in this class. So it's going to be much more interactive. So you can also have a flashback on what we have done earlier. Then we're also going to look at the users of public sector accounting information. So if you have attended my previous classes, you should be able to begin to calculate within your head now, begin to say, okay, I know this one that he has pointed out. Then we looked at the concepts and principles applicable to public sector accounting, the basis of public sector accounting, then comparison between non-profit oriented organizations, okay, non-profit oriented organizations and profit oriented organizations. You will be shocked that you can get about 6 questions from this chapter 1 only in your exam. So please pay strict attention to it. Then professional pronouncements on public sector accounting. We're going to look at that, professional pronouncement. Just in case we didn't look at that in our physical classes. Okay, so I'm going to look at that. Although I mentioned something like that, then we're going to look at the summary and end of chapter question review. So it's going to be an interactive class, so please pay attention. So let's start. So at the end of this class, you are going to know how to define and explain terminologies in public sector accounting. So it's going to be useless if after this class, you don't even know some things related to public sector accounting. So at least if you attend this class, you'll be able to say 1 or 2 things that relate to public sector accounting when you start having a conversation outside. You should also be able to identify the objective of public sector accounting, not objective of public sector. Please take note of that. There's a difference between the objective of public sector within an economy and what we mean by objective of public sector accounting itself. Please take note of that. Then you're also going to understand and appreciate the users of public sector accounting. Then we look at the concept and principles applicable to public sector accounting. Then you're also going to know the basis of public sector accounting, the funding principles of public sector accounting, or public sector itself. Then distinguish between non-profit oriented organization and profit-oriented organization. And finally, explain the objectives and details of professional pronouncements on public sector accounting. This is just going to take us about 20 to 25 minutes, so just pay close attention. So as we start this class, the first thing that you need to know, okay, is what public sector itself is, not public sector accounting. So we need to understand what public sector itself is before you move to what public sector accounting is. So I made mention to my class that the economy itself is divided into 2. We have the public sector and we have the what? The private sector, okay? Public sector itself talks about all organizations which are not privately owned and operated, but which are established, run, and financed by government on behalf of the public. When we talk about public sector, we're talking about all organizations that are not owned by any private individuals. It means that the organizations are established, they are run, they are also financed, okay, by government on behalf of the public, and the public is I and you. So any organization at all that is owned by the government, that government manages, that government controls, government finances, those organizations are known as public sector organizations, okay? And government is running these organizations for us, which are the public. Okay, so technically, we are the owners of the organization because we finance the organization, okay, because of our tax money. But the government is only managing these organizations on our behalf. That is what we are trying to say. Now, this definition conveys the idea that the public sector consists of organizations where control lies in the hands of the public. Are you saying that the control of the organization lies in the hand of the public? Government is only managing it. Government is only acting as a trustee. Government is only financing it with our money. But technically, we control the organizations. We, the public, controls it. That is why, as at the end of every year, government reports to us what we have used our money for. So if we are not the owners, why are government reporting to us? If we are not the owners, why are government demanding money from us to finance the business? So we are technically the owners, but government is only acting as a custodian to those organizations. Okay? Now, it is as opposed to private owners and whose objectives involve the provision of services, where profit making is not a primary objective. So now we now know that public sector talks about all organizations owned by the government, financed by the government, established by the government on behalf of the public. All right? And another thing I should know for public sector is that all public sector organizations basically are not operated for profit making. That is the general understanding. Public sector are not operated for profit making. Okay? They are operated to provide goods and services at a subsidized price, at a subsidized amount. That is what public sector is established for. But private sector is established for the purpose of making profits out of I and you. Okay? They are established into what? To make profit from their businesses and transactions. Now, let us move to what public sector accounting itself is, now that we now understand what public sector is. Now, public sector accounting has been defined as a process of recording, you see it, communicating, summarizing, analyzing, and interpreting government financial statements and statistics in aggregate and in details. It is concerned with the receipts, custody, disbursement, rendering of stewardship on public funds entrusted. Now, don't look at how long the definition is, okay? I usually tell people, if you know how to define your normal private sector accounting, it is easier to also define public sector accounting. All you just need to do is to interchange the words, okay? So the same thing, you know, when you're defining your private sector accounting, you talk about the recording, communicating, summarizing, analyzing, whatever. So I gave my physical class student an acronym known as RASCI, okay? RASCI, I think this C is for 2 and I, so this is RASCI. So I said this is the recording, okay? This is A, analyzing. Once you analyze, you summarize. Once you summarize, you do what? You communicate, okay? You communicate, okay? So since this is C2, this is classify. Then after classify, you communicate, and after communicate, you interpret. So I'll come back again. So public sector accounting talks about the recording, the analyzing, the summarizing, the classifying, communicating, and interpreting of government financial informations. Are you seeing that? Or of government financial statements in aggregate and in details to its users, as simple as that. You don't need to put in all these other definitions. So once you're able to spell out this and put in government financial statement or government financial information in aggregate and in details to its users, you are fine and good to go, okay? So ICANN has done it well to explain what recording of transaction is, to explain what analyzing of transaction is, classifying of transaction, summarizing of transaction, then you communicate transaction. They've spelled out everything that you need to know, including the interpretation of transaction, all right? So all these are what you can go to because you have done it in ATS1. So I would not want to repeat most of these things again, but you can actually go through them, okay? Where you record your transaction, you have to analyze them, okay, into different areas, heads, subheads, okay? You have to also classify them, you summarize, you communicate, and lastly, you interpret the words, the information, all right? So having known this, the next thing that we'll be looking at is the nature, objective, and characteristics of public sector accounting, okay? The nature, the objectives, and characteristics of public sector accounting. Please, if you are still following me, ensure that you have put a comment on the chat box that you are following me, okay? All right. So now the term public sector refers to all organizations which are created, administered, and financed by government from the taxpayer money. Are you seeing this key? So they are all created, administered, and financed by the government from taxpayers' money, which is the money that I and you contributed, on behalf of members of the public, which is I and you. Now, such establishments, which is referred to as the three-tier government companies, okay? I repeat, such establishments which are referred to as the three-tier government companies, which is three-tier talks about whether the organization is owned or the company is owned by federal government, owned by state government, owned by local government, they all fall under public sector, okay? Parastatals and other public agencies created by the nation's constitution, act of parliament, and bylaws. So any of them at all these ones falls under public sector. Okay, whether they are owned by the federal, state, or local governments. All right, so this is the nature of public sector. This is the nature itself. Okay, this is how public sector is being structured. It talks about all organizations, okay, which is owned by three tiers of government. Either it is owned by any of the three tiers of government, and they are being financed, controlled, and managed by taxpayers' money. And many of them are established by the constitutions, act of parliament, or bylaw. This is simply the nature of public sector accounting. All right, now what are the objectives? The main objective of public sector accounting. Why must we account for organizations, or why must we account for public sector organizations? Okay, if we are accounting for private sector, is it also important that we also shift this accounting to public sector? Let us see the reasons for this, or the objective for us accounting for public sector. I hope you are following me. So we have one, determining the legitimacy of transactions and their compliance with statute and accepted norms. Okay, that's one of the objectives of public sector accounting. Now, let me explain this. Okay. Now, let me explain this. They say one of the objectives of us preparing public sector accounting is because we want to determine the legitimacy. Legitimacy means the accuracy, the credibility, okay, the truthfulness of transactions and their compliance with the statute and accepted laws. Now listen, public sector disbursement should accord with the provisions of the Appropriation Act and financial regulations. There should be due authorization of all payments so as to avoid misappropriation. It's as simple as this. Now, I do not advise my students to cram whatever is here and give to ICANN. You don't need to cram. All you need to do is understand what it is saying, then you can put that in your own words. It's as simple as that. Now, let me explain this. Now, when we say to determine the legitimacy of transaction, we are trying to say to determine, when we keep accounting records, keeping of these records enable us to know whether this particular record or this particular transaction actually occurred. If a transaction does not occur, there will be no need keeping it. But if the transaction occurred, it means that we have to keep it. And keeping this record simply means that we are trying to establish what happened within such a transaction. Technically, it means that we are establishing the legitimacy of the transaction. So if a fund has been authorized for spending, we record it. If a fund was received into the organization or into the ministry or into the department, whatever it may be, we are also recording it. So keeping proper public sector accounting enables us to determine the truthfulness of every transaction that occurred within the financial year of that particular company. It's as easy as that. So in case you are being asked to list and explain 5 objectives of public sector accounting, you can list number 1. Public sector accounting helps to keep what? Helps to determine the legitimacy of transactions and how these transactions comply with statute and accepted norms. You must ensure that because this is public sector accounting, everything under it is governed by law. Okay? Everything under it is governed by law. The same way your private sector accounting is governed by standard, IAS and IFRS. Public sector accounting is also governed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and every other constitution. So everything that is being done must be done in accordance with these laws. That is why we say to determine the legitimacy of transactions and their compliance. Compliance, okay, with statute, that is laws, and accepted what? Norms. All right? Then let's take number 2. Number 2 is providing evidence of stewardship. Stewardship talks about when you are reporting to somebody. That's the meaning of stewardship. Okay, so you have a boss. when you do your job, you report to that boss. It means that you are offering what we call stewardship to the boss. Now let us read what I can state. I can say that the act of rendering stewardship is being able to account transparently and diligently for resources entrusted. That's what I'm trying to say. So you have a boss, okay? Your boss have told you that this is your job. Whatever is happening here, ensure that you also give me feedback. All right? So the act of you giving feedback to your boss on everything that is happening within that your position, within that company, okay, within your department is what we mean by stewardship. So let us relate it to accounting now. We have given the government money in form of taxation. And we have told the government, use this money to provide electricity for us, use this money to provide good road for us, use this money to provide jobs for us, use money to provide different things that we need. Government has accepted, and they are taking the money and they are doing their job. So they have to come back to us and explain to us how well they have used this money. And the only way they can explain to us is by releasing what we call accounts, statement of account, which is government accounts. Okay, government accounts. So we go to look at the account and see where government have spent money on. That is technically what we mean by providing evidence of stewardship. So with the help of the account that you have prepared, that is what we are going to show to your boss, isn't it? So with the help of the account that the government, the president, the senators, everybody has prepared, that is what they are going to show back to us, telling us that, oh, with respect to the money that you have given to us in form of taxation, here are the following objectives, or here are the things that we have achieved with this. So if there was no account, what are they coming to tell us? Will they just come and start wrapping their mouth and start explaining what there's no evidence? So they have to show evidence by giving us the account. So from the account, we can now trace it to the physical thing that has been done in reality. It's as simple as that. Okay? It's as simple as that. So I'll take two objectives more, okay, to explain more, or one. Next says assisting planning and control. If you don't have proper accounts in general, you cannot plan, you cannot control. For example, you want to plan how you are going to spend money in 2024. It means that you have to keep account of all the money you are receiving and budget for them before you are able to plan. If you think that you can do everything inside that your head, you will end up losing everything. So you must have a book, a jotter, a laptop, or an Excel file where you say, oh, on a monthly basis, I receive total money that comes to my account is 100,000. I will make my F from it. I'll buy my soap and my other detergent and everything from it. This is what I'm going to spend. So I'm going to be left with 70,000. I'm supposed to take 50,000 naira to my savings account. The remaining 20,000, I'm supposed to pay tithe on it also. I'm supposed to do that. So that is what we call planning. If there's no record, there will be no plan. Okay? If there is no record, there will be no proper planning. So what are we trying to say? The accounts that we are keeping for the government, or the accounts that government is keeping, is what they are now using to plan, and that is what they're also using to control. So government accounting will assist government to plan and also to control their activities. It's as simple as that. Okay, it's as simple as that. So let's take one more. Okay, let's take one more. Let's take D, which says ensuring objective and timely reporting. Now, users of public sector accounting information are anxious to bridge their knowledge gap on government activities. Now, they therefore treasure prompt and accurate statistics to evaluate government performance. Ensure objective and timely reporting. What is ensure objective and timely reporting? If we want to measure the performance of government, I repeat, all we have to do is to go to the accounts of the government and check what they have done. So government must ensure that they furnish us on a timely basis everything that is happening within their own sphere. Okay? So once they are furnishing us with everything that is happening within their own sphere, through accounts, we are able to make our own decisions. It's a pity that many of us does not really look at the account of the government because we feel like we are not interested. Let them do whatever they want to do. But in reality, you are actually meant to look at this account and check whether government is actually performing as they have promised to perform. So they should ensure to report to us even on a monthly basis, rather than waiting till the end of the year. And the only way they can do that is by rendering public sector accounting. So you cannot report to us without having a good public sector accounting framework in place. Okay, so that is an objective. So ICANN has also said, okay, I am giving you other objectives. Other objectives. So you can also look at other objectives just in case you have been asked in your exam to state 5 objectives and you can't remember everything here. Look at, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here are other ones again. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, other 9 objectives. So let us pick randomly. We say providing the basis for decision making. Yes, with the help of public sector accounting, government is able to make proper decisions regarding to our resources. Okay, next is, let's take this VII. It says providing the means by which actual performance may be compared with the set targets. Yes, with public sector accounting, you are able to compare the performance of the government with what they have said they will do. So government came on TV and said, if you vote me in, we are going to do this, we are going to do that, we are going to spend money on education, we are going to allocate 5 billion on so. They have said it, isn't it? It is the account that they have prepared that will now show us whether they have actually achieved these things or not. So with the help of public sector accounting, which is done by the Accountant General for the Federation or of the Federation, okay, so it will help us to be able to measure the actual performance, what have government actually done against the targets that they even set us at the beginning, against what they say they will do. So government accounting can help us to do that. Let's pick one more, okay? Let's pick one more, okay? Identifying the sources of funding for capital projects. Yes, government accounting can enable us to identify where to get funds for capital projects. It can also enable us to know which area funds are coming from, because we are recording what comes in and what goes out in accounting. That's what we are trying to do. Okay? It can also help us to appraise efficiency of management. Those people that government have appointed to manage the resources, like a custom controller, like people that are into NNPC, that manages the NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NEPA. Government has put in managers there. So it is the account that is being prepared for each of those parastatals or ministries. That's what we're going to know, whether the managers that the government has put there are actually working or not. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we have talked about what public sector is, okay? That's where we started from. What public sector is, okay? How do we finance public sector? I told you we finance public sector using taxpayers' money, okay? Taxpayers' money, basically taxpayers' money, all right? Then we now move to what public sector accounting is, which I gave you an acronym, which I call RASCI, okay? Recording, analyzing, summarizing, classifying, communicating, and interpreting. I also told you that you can go through this part here to know what each and every item on the acronym actually means. We now move to the nature, where we just talk about briefly about how public sector accounting is being structured. And I say public sector, how public sector itself, not accounting, is being structured. And we said that public sector is owned, financed, controlled by government using taxpayers' money on behalf of the public. That is the structure of public sector. It's as simple as that. Then I told you that any organization owned by either federal, state, or local government, it falls under public sector. And most of these public sector organizations are either created by law, by constitution, by act of parliament, or by law, depending on the laws in place as at that moment. All right? Then we are now on the objective of public sector accounting. Why should we keep public sector accounts? That's what we mean. And we have been able to highlight several reasons why we should keep public sector accounts. Okay, and that is that. Now let us go to the characteristics of public sector accounting. Okay, the characteristics of public sector accounting. We are done. Okay, we are done. So what are the characteristics of public sector accounting? Let's speak about 2 or 3. Okay, let's speak about 2 or 3. Now, what are the characteristics of public sector accounting? Let's take 1, this A. He said there are distinct aspects of accounting information, classification, and procedures which apply only to transactions made by the government. For example, examples are the budgeting system and applicable procedures, fiscal policies, accounting methods, and sources of revenue. The peculiar nature of government transactions makes it desirable and indeed mandatory to treat them in accordance with specific but cohesive and standardized measure of approaches and rules. You don't need to state all these things when you are giving characteristics of public sector accounting. I repeat, you don't need to state all these stories. This is only available for you to read and understand. You have to put them in your own words. Okay, so let me just give you 3 characteristics of public sector accounting, regardless of whatever is here. Okay, regardless of whatever is here. All right, now let me give you 3 characteristics. Public sector accounting is usually kept on cash basis. Please, that's 1. Okay, let's see. Usually kept on cash basis. Okay. Another peculiarity of government operation is that the accounting system is maintained on cash basis. That's good. So it's already here. C. What do we mean? Government only record money when they receive it. And government only record expenditure when they spend it, when they have sent out the money. That's what we mean by cash basis. Don't forget that private sector accounting records, their system of accounting is accrual basis. So you don't need to ask what accrual basis is because you have done basic accounting process and system. All right. So we have about 3 bases of accounting, which we're also going to look at when we proceed. But please take note that basically for public sector, their basis is usually cash basis, meaning that we record revenue when we receive it and record expenditure when we have what paid it. All right. Then other characteristics of public sector accounting is that public sector accounting does not recognize depreciation. Okay, depreciation, there's nothing like depreciation in public sector accounting. Please take note of that. All right, assets are not depreciated. This means that assets, whenever we buy them, we write them off immediately. We have money now. Why are we and stressing ourselves, depreciating assets like the way Dangote are doing, like the way private sector companies or organizations are doing? So in public sector, we don't depreciate assets. Okay, we write off an asset, immediately we buy the assets. Another characteristic is that there is nothing like debtors. That debtors that I usually see in private sector, there's nothing like debtors in public sector accounting. There's nothing like creditors. Why? Why is there nothing like debtors and creditors? You are operating on a cash basis, meaning that there's nothing like debtors now. It is only when you pay money, you record it. It's only when you receive money, you record it. So definitely, debtor arises when you have not paid money. All right? So accounting in public sector using cash basis does not recognize debtors because we believe that we only record when we pay and we only record when we receive. It's as simple as that. So the same thing happens to or applies to creditors. There's nothing like debtors and there's nothing like creditors. So these are the characteristics of public sector accounting. Okay, these are the characteristics of public sector accounting. Another characteristic is that most of the terminologies in public sector are not applicable in private sectors. Okay, most of the terminologies in public sectors are not applicable in private sectors. For example, you hear the word environments, okay, environment, fund accounting. All these terminologies are only peculiar to public sector. Look at it here, fund accounting. So the method of accounting adopted in recording and measuring the funds is referred to as fund accounting. So government makes use of fund accounting, but private sector makes use of proprietary accounting. Please bear that in mind. Public sector makes use of fund accounting. They open an account for every fund that they get or for every fund that they receive. But private sector does not operate a fund accounting system. They operate a proprietary accounting system. So far, so good. I've given you characteristics of public sector accounting. Let's move to the users of public sector accounting information. Who makes use of this information that the accountant has prepared in public sector? So the users can be divided into internal users, okay, and external users, just the same way we have in our private sector. So what are the internal users, or what we call interest areas, okay? Internal users and interest areas. Internal users and interest area means the internal users and what they need the information for. So you can be expecting such a question in your exam. You can be asked to list the users of accounting, of government accounting information or of public sector accounting information and their interest areas and their information needs. Any they put it is the same thing. Okay. So the internal users include labor union. Are you seeing them? Members of the executive arm of government, such as the president, the ministers, the governors, commissioners, chairmen of local government. All these are the internal users of accounting information, of public sector accounting information. Why do they need this information? So their interest areas are to ensure probity and accountability through record keeping and performance control, which are achieved through accounting information. Please go through this. Okay, labor union in the public service, which we press for improved condition of employment and secure of tenure for their members. So labor union, they fight for laborers, okay? They fight for your father, your mother that works with government, that works with organizations. So labor union is always striving to ensure that government pay these people better money. Government does not owe them. Their pension is being paid in time. All right. So labor union is also part of internal users. All right. So the last part of internal users I'm looking at is top management members, such as permanent secretaries, okay, various ministries, and as chief executive of parastatals. It means that head of all ministries are internal users. Okay, Minister of Finance, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Electricity and Power, stuff like that. All of them are all internal words users of accounting information. Okay, then let us move to the external users. External users are many. Who are they? Members of the legislative arm, which is both the national, state, and local government levels. Okay, so the National Assembly is an external user. Members of the public, which is I and you, are external users. Researchers and financial journalists, maybe there's any researcher that needs information from the government, they are also external users. Okay, everything regarding to what they need information for is included here. So if you have a project to write and you are asked to write on government, you have to go and search for government information, isn't it? So you're a researcher now. You are searching for government information. You have to go to statistics, Bureau of Statistics, to get that government information. All right, Bureau of Statistics is where you can get most of government information. Then we have financial institutions like IMF, okay, World Bank, okay, any other international bodies, okay, that will require government information before they can give them loan or do anything for them. Then government apart from the reporting governments. Please let me explain this. If you are looking at federal government accounts, FAA, okay, and the state government, Lagos State is the one looking at their account. Maybe Lagos State went to say, let us even see what federal government have done. They went to pick up federal government accounts. It means that Lagos State is an external user. I repeat, okay? So Lagos State is the one looking into federal government accounts. So Lagos State is an external user. If local governments, maybe your local government, okay, LG, local government, is the one looking at the account of Lagos State. They just pick the account and they are checking to check what Lagos State has gotten for the year, what they have spent for the year, okay, the performance of your governor for the year. This local government is an external user. That's why we say government apart from the one reporting. So any government, apart from the one that they are looking at the account, is an external user. All right. So we have suppliers and contractors, political parties, okay, foreign countries and foreign financial institutions. They are all external users. Please ensure that you have this in mind. You can expect a question like this in your exam. Okay, let's move to concepts, principles applicable to public sector accounting. So those terminologies that you always see in public sector accounting, okay? It's not that you will not see them in private sector, okay? They are also peculiar to or applicable in public sector accounting. So concepts have been defined as broad basic assumption underlying the preparation of financial statements of an enterprise. That is the definition. Just in case you're asked to define accounting concepts. Accounting concepts are broad assumptions which you must follow when preparing financial statements. It's as simple as that. So examples of this concept include what? Materiality, okay? Periodicity. So if you check all accountants follow periodicity concept, meaning that accounts will be prepared within a 12 calendar months. Okay, it's not that this person will follow it, this person will not follow it. No, everybody is following it. Okay, duality concepts, entity concepts, historical concepts. Okay, going concern concept. They are all concepts that accountants, whether you are in Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, US, UK, Canada, you must follow this concept. They are broad assumptions. I repeat, they are assumptions that all accountants should follow when they prepare financial statements. Now look at this part I want you to follow. Public sector accounting is an integral part, but separate branch of financial accounting. Okay? Sharing many concepts and principles applicable in the private sector. So if we check, all these concepts are also applicable in the private world sectors. Okay? So here are the concepts and principles of public sector. So you can also use your ATS1 knowledge to answer these questions. Now let us look at the basis of public sector accounting, which I said is very crucial and which I mentioned earlier. Okay, basis of public sector accounting simply means how do you recognize revenue? That's what we mean. How do you recognize revenue? How do you recognize expenses? That's what we mean by basis. How transactions are recognized in your financial statements. As simple as that. Okay, so in public sector accounting, we have several bases which we call the cash basis, okay, the accrual basis, the commitment basis, the modified cash basis, and modified accrual basis. So I'm going to look at them briefly, very briefly. So I've spoken about cash basis, where I said transactions are recorded, that is, income are recorded when you received, while expenditures are recorded when paid. It's as simple as that. So you don't record anything as an accountant, except when you receive money on that cash basis, and except when you pay money. Does that make sense? Please let me know on the chat box. To not take you 1 minute, 1 second to type. Does that make sense? Then let's just look at it here. It is the basis of accounting under which revenue is recorded only when cash is received. Are you seeing it? Revenue is recorded only when cash is received, and expenditure recognized only when cash is paid, irrespective of the fact that the transaction might have incurred in the previous accounting period. So we don't care when the transaction took place. We don't care whether the transaction has started last month, last year, whether you have even given out the goods, whether you have even given out the service. What we are only concerned about is the movement of cash. Okay, that is what we are concerned about. Have we paid? Have we not paid? So if you have paid, that is when you record. If you have received, that is when you record. All right. So if you know the definition of cash basis, please, I beg you, know at least three of the advantages and disadvantages. It's as easy as that. So advantage is that it is simple to understand. Okay, it is what? Simple to understand. Next is what? It eliminates the existence of debtors and creditors. Yes, whenever you're using your cash basis, there's nothing like debtors and creditors, because you're only recording when you receive and when you pay. It's as easy as that. All right. So it permits easy identification of those who authorize payments and collect revenue. Yes, since you are only recording when you receive, okay, and you're also recording when you pay money, you are able to know who is authorizing what, okay, who is in charge of what. All right, that's what it means. So you can go through other advantages. It saves time and it's easy to operate. Yes, it saves time and it's easy to operate. I like that for it. Then look at the disadvantages also, okay? One thing about cash basis is that it takes unrealistic view of the financial transaction. That is the weak point. It does not, it is easy to operate, but it does not really give us what is actually happening within such an organization. Because technically there's a debtor, but because you have not paid that debtor, you will not recognize that there's a debtor until you have not paid that debtor. Does it make sense? Okay, for example, government told HP that with supplies laptop, I told HP, supply me 1 million pieces of laptop. I want to use it as giveaway to all the students in government school. HP has supplied, but government have not paid. Technically, it means that the government, our Nigerian government, is owing HP. But you are not going to see that in the books of account because the government is using cash basis. So when government now finally pays HP, maybe next 3 months, next year, next 6 months, depending on when they pay HP, that's when they will now record it that they bought 1 million pieces of laptop and they have paid HP. Does that make sense? So cash basis does not really show a realistic view of your financial transaction. That is one of the shortcomings of cash basis. Okay. All right. So please go through this. Okay. I won't feed you all. Just go through this. Okay. Just go through this and get back to me on that. Then we have the modified cash basis. Now, under this basis, the books of account are left open for a maximum of 3 months after the end of the year to capture substantial amounts. Hold on. To capture substantial amount of income or expenses relating to the year just ended. Okay, let me give you what modified cash basis is. Remember, this is cash basis and this is modified cash basis. The only difference is that both of them are all cash basis, but normally, when you're operating a 12 calendar month, you're supposed to close your books of accounts as at the end of the 12th month. So for example, from January to December, as at December 31st, companies are closing their books of accounts. But if a government organization is applying modified cash basis, it means that they are going to leave their account open, their books open for extra 3 months, which is January, February, March of the next year. The reason is because they want to capture in more financial transactions. Okay, they want to capture in more incomes and also capture in more expenses before they close the books of accounts. As easy as that. All right, it's as easy as that. I'm going to take every question, but just relax. Okay, just relax. Then the next one is accrual basis. This one, you even know this one more than me because all of you are doing financial accounting. So what is accrual basis? What is accrual basis? What is accrual basis? So accrual basis is saying that they say under this basis, revenue is recorded when earned. Please take note of that. Okay, a cash says revenue is recorded when received. Accrual is saying revenue is recorded when earned. And expenditure is acknowledged as liability when known or benefit is what? Received. notwithstanding the fact that the receipt or payment of cash has taken place wholly or partly in other accounting period. Okay, so you are attending my class and maybe you have not paid. Okay, automatically, because you are attending my class, it means that me myself, I am recognized what revenue, whether you have paid me or not, because for you to attend my class, it means that you're going to pay me. Do you understand? So we say revenue is recorded when earned, meaning that once we have started doing that activity, that you will make you to say, yes, I'm going to receive this money, go and record it that you have received the money. So let me give you a practical example. I sell laptops. Okay, I sell laptops, and somebody, a school, ordered for 50 pieces of laptops. I have supplied the laptops to the school, but I have not collected money. I will go and record it in my account that I have what? Earned revenue, that I have made money of equal to 50 laptops that I have supplied, even when I have not received the money. That's what I mean by earned. Earned there means that you have done the work that makes you, or that entitles you to getting that money. Okay, that is meaning of earn. So we record revenue when we earn it because we have done the job. Then we record the expenditure when we incur it. Like that now, that school that I have supplied this laptop, they have not yet paid me, but the accountant is going to record that they have incurred expenditure because they have actually received service from somebody that they are ought to pay, even though they have not paid that person. It's as easy as that. So under accrual basis, revenue is recorded when earned, while expenditure is recorded when what? Incurred. So please look at the advantages of accrual basis and look at the disadvantages of accrual basis. Go through them. Okay? Go through them. You should understand them. So one of the advantages is that it takes a realistic view of the financial transaction. So the disadvantages of cash basis are actually the advantages of accrual basis, vice versa. And the advantages of cash basis are more or less like the disadvantages of accrual basis. So it is just intertwine it. All right. Now let us look at the modified accrual basis. Now this is the basis under which revenue is recorded when received and not earned. Are you seeing it? What expenditure is recorded once its liability is what is incurred. It means that cash basis is used for recording revenue, while accrual basis is used for recording expenditure. So I've explained this earlier. Modified cash basis. Now, under modified cash basis, we are saying that we are combining both accrual basis and cash basis at the same time. Now, if you want to use the cash basis, okay, you apply the cash basis for revenue only, and you apply the accrual basis for expenditure only. So you are combining both cash basis and accrual basis. Cash basis for revenue, then accrual basis for expenditure. It's as simple as that. Please look at the other contents contained here for more clarity, but that is what modified accrual basis is. Then the last but not the least is commitment basis. Okay, commitment basis. Now, it is a basis that records anticipated expenditure, evidenced by a contract or a purchase order. Now, in public sector financing, budgetary and accounting systems are closely related to commitment basis. So what I want to say under this basis is that commitment basis records transaction when governments are committed to a transaction. That's what it means. So it means that whenever government issues out a purchase order, or there's any evidence of contract document, it means that transaction should be recorded. For example, if government sends us a purchase order, okay, demanding for an item, in as much as that purchase order has left the government organization down to the person that they want to purchase that thing from, the accountant has recorded that a transaction has taken place. Whether or not the goods has arrived, whether or not they have paid, are you seeing it? The transaction has taken place. So that's what we mean by commitment basis. So governments are committed to a transaction by virtue of a purchase order or by virtue of a contract agreement. So if there's any contract agreement that government have signed and said, Mr. Julius, you are going to be in charge of making Badagry Expressway, okay, 12 kilometers. They have not released cash for it. They only signed a contract to it. It means that the transaction has taken place. That's what we mean by commitment basis. So transaction takes place by virtue of purchase order or evidence of contracts. All right. So please go through the advantages of commitment basis and go through disadvantages of commitment, because when we'll be meeting next time, you are going to shed more light on what you understand by commitment basis and the advantages and their disadvantages. Please go through them. Okay. I will just take one on my own part. Okay. I'll take one. So commitment accounts keeps on a memorandum basis have several advantages. First of all, what is memorandum basis? What is memorandum accounting? Does anybody know that? Memorandum accounting or memorandum accounts. Does anybody know what that means? Memorandum accounts. If you don't know, just type on the chat that you don't know. If you know it, let me know. Does anybody know what memorandum account is? Okay, so let me explain. I think nobody knows. A memorandum account is an account that is not prepared in accordance with double entry principle. It means that if you look at the account, you will not be seeing debit, the receiver, credit, the giver. Okay, it follows any other principle apart from debit, the receiver, credit, the giver. So, for example, for those of you who knows what joint venture account is, if you check memorandum joint venture account, it's nothing like you are debiting this account because the account received, or you are crediting this account because the account gave. No, the principle of posting to that account is not bent on debit the receiver and credit the giver. Another thing about memorandum account is that they balance off themselves. They don't need balance carry down or balance brought down. The account will automatically balance by itself. That's what I mean by memorandum account. Please take note of that. All right, memorandum account. All right, so please go through the rest. Go through this. It takes a realistic view of financial transaction. Okay, it is an aid to financial control. Okay, it aligns with the matching concepts. Everything. Just go to them. Pick three. Then pick three for also the disadvantages. All right. So let's see where we are. Are we almost done? Are we almost done? Okay, yes, we are done. So we are almost done. So I'll just do a summary of what is left. What is left? Okay, I'll just do a summary of what is there. So what is left that we need to know is the difference between non-profit making organization and profit making organization. Remember, I told you that government organizations are non-profit making, while private organizations are profit making. So let us look at least, let's just speak about three. Okay, let's speak about three, then you go to the rest. So let us compare profit making and non-profit making. We're going to compare them first on the basis of profits. Okay? Now, the main objective is to provide adequate welfare to the people at a reasonable cost. They are not meant to make profits. But under profit-oriented, their main objective is to maximize profits. Okay? Their main objective is to maximize profits. But under non-profit making organization, or under non-profit making non-profit-oriented organizations, theirs is just to provide the goods and services at a reasonable cost. Okay? Very reasonable cost that the public, even the poor can get it. But in private sector or in profit-oriented, sometimes it's only the rich that can afford it. Now let us compare again on the basis of revenue. Revenue is derived from the public in terms of taxation, fines, fees, etc. But under profit-oriented, revenue is gotten from the sale of goods and services. If they don't sell goods or they don't render service, they will not get revenue. All right? Now let us compare on the basis of legal information. They are created by acts of the legislation, that is national and state assemblies. I said that earlier. All government organizations are created by law. So they are created by the acts of the legislature, which is Act of National Assembly. But for private organization, which is profit-oriented, they must be registered under Corporate Affairs Commission. They are not created by law. Okay? They must be registered under Corporate Affairs Commission. So I'll give you examples. Ministry of Education is not registered under CAC. They were created by the federal government of Nigeria, by a law of Nigeria. But Dangote was created by what? Under CAC. It must be registered under CAC as a company. That's what it means. So let's check budget. Let's pick one more. Let's check budget. Let's categorize on that budget. Now, the public is more interested in the annual budget than the annual report. Yes. But the public is more interested in the annual report than the annual budget. Yes. If you check what is happening now, you see that there's a news going on around the federal government budget, state budget. We are more interested in the budget than even the financial statements. But in private sector, we are more interested in the budget, in the reports rather than the budgets. Okay, good. Let's pick one here, the solution. On the solution, any income raised or assets acquired cannot be distributed or benefit members or directors or officers of the organization because all the proceeds must revert to the state. Yes, if any of this government organization is closing down, they don't need to share who are they sharing the assets to? When they are not the owner. It is public that is the owner. It is impossible for you to share an asset to everybody in Nigeria. So everything is going to come back to the state. The state can sell it, use the money for other things. But under profit making, income realized on dissolution. Dissolution means when you are closing down. Any income you get when you are closing your company down will be distributed, okay, for the benefit of members, directors, or officers of the organization. It's as easy as that. So these are the comparison or differences between a profit-oriented organization and private organization. I would like to take this accounting part of it. They strictly operate on International Public Sector Accounting Standard, IPSAS. Yes. Government accounting is prepared under an accounting standard known as IPSAS, International Public Sector Accounting Standard. Okay, either using cash or accrual basis. They operate substantially on fund accounting. I've said this earlier before when we're looking at the characteristics. So these are the peculiarities of public sector accounting. They use IPSAS, okay? They can either use cash or accrual basis. And they also use what we call fund accounting system. But in private sector or for profit-oriented, they strictly operate International Financial Reporting Standard, IFRS. The proprietary approach, I told you earlier that public sector use fund accounting, while private sector use what proprietary accounting, which is proprietary approach, is adopted for the what? For the fundings. Please take note of that. All right. And for this, private sector does not use cash basis. It's only government that use cash basis. Private sector does not use encumbrance basis. Encumbrance basis is also known as commitment basis. Please take note. Encumbrance basis is also known as commitment basis. Commitment basis is only used by public sector. Private sector does not use commitment basis. All right. Okay. Let me just take this annual general meeting. All right. There is no annual general meeting, but government can hold public briefing on specific issues. But you see this guy, under profit-oriented, there is annual general meeting of the shareholders to discuss the performance of this organization, and it is mandatory by CAC. They must even send a copy of their resolution to CAC. All right? It's compulsory to hold that meeting. All right? I think that's where I'm going to be stopping up tonight. Okay, that's where I'm going to be stopping up tonight. So my assignment is this. You're going to read for me from 1.7. First of all, you're going to go through those advantages and disadvantages that I did not touch in-depthly under this basis of accounting. Go through all what we have done. Now, you are also going to add this to your assignment by reading through professional pronouncements on public sector. Okay? Professional pronouncements on public sector. All right? Read it through. International Federation of Accountants, IFAC. Read it through. It's just about 4 pages, okay? Read it through and stop. This is the end. Once you are done, come to this examination type question. Answer all. I repeat, answer all the questions. I know that there are answers there, but answer them. Screenshot it or snap it and send on the WhatsApp group where we are, okay? Answer them without looking at the answers. It will help you. Answer them without looking at the answer. Snap it and send to the WhatsApp group where everybody belongs. For those that are not in class tonight, please pass the assignment to them. Somebody can type the assignment on the group so they can have the assignments. And I need it submitted before, today is Monday, so I need it submitted before Thursday evening. Thursday at least 5 o'clock in the evening. Everything must have been read and assignment must have been done at least by Thursday, 5 p.m. in the evening. Okay? So if you have any question, I'm open to question before we call it a day. Ask me your question. Any question at all?
Sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, you can
Hello, sir,
proceed. I
can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Yes, I can hear you. Proceed, please. Please ask your question. I can hear you.
Okay, so my question before what I wanted to ask is that about this cash basis that you follow. Yeah, you said debtors and creditors are not recognized. So like
Yes.
I feel like okay, So if creditors are not recognized, then is are they having a are they having a separate account where they actually, even though in their main account is not being recognized, or like is it possible that okay, yeah, all is paid for, but what about the other? Can't they forget about some expense, or is there a separate account where they're keeping record of it, even though they've not paid for, but it's actually not their main account?
Yes, that is realistic. So you won't forget that you are owing so person. You should be able to keep the account somewhere. But in the financial statements, okay, in the financial statement, in government financial statement, government will not disclose that they have a debtor or they have a creditor. But the accountant general knows, or whoever is the account knows, or maybe he has a spreadsheet or somewhere that he has listed everybody that has done job for the government and how much we owe them, the date we intend to pay them. That is fine. But to ensure that when you are preparing your financial statement, when you want to show your financial statement to the public, those things will not appear there because you are not operating accrual basis. You're operating cash basis. And cash basis will only show you what you have paid for and what you have received. It will not show you who you are owing. I hope you understand that. But internally, we know that we are owing so persons. All right, we know we are owing so persons, but the financial statement will not carry it because it's going to be a breach on the rules of cash basis. Does it make sense? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any other question from anybody? Is there any other question?
From me, no, sir.
Okay, so if Flora and Mana does not have questions, then I believe that this is well understood. So I'll be expecting a response to my assignment. Okay, please go through it. It's very interesting. You would not find it easy, or you will not find it funny when you reference this course. So please go to this International Federation, all these parts that I did not touch from 1.7 downward and answer the questions that follows. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for this section and see you in our next class.